from organizing Democrats to take a difficult vote to save the economy in 2008, to convincing her party to finish the job and certify Biden's election on January 6th. Pelosi has always been the person who helps her party make the tough but necessary choices. And all of that is detailed in her new book, The Art of Power, My Story as America's First Woman Speaker of the House. Earlier tonight, I spoke with the former speaker about the new book. Joining me now is Speaker Emerita Nancy Pelosi. Thank you for being here tonight, Madam Speaker Emerita. It's a real pleasure to have you on the program, and congratulations on the book. I wonder, I was struck by the accounts in the book, the number of times you, in meetings with former President Trump, offered him the straight, unvarnished truth on everything from impeachment proceedings to the fact that he lost the popular vote in 2016. Mm-hmm. And I wonder, as you think about the fact that he's a candidate again, could you share with the American public what it was like to brush back a former president, and specifically this president, Donald Trump?
The first time, a few days after his inauguration. It has always been an historic event. I've been there for a couple of times for Barack Obama. I've been there for George Bush. And now we were going to be there with this new president, wishing him well, even though we would have preferred that Hillary Clinton had won. But he's the president now. And so when we were waiting for him to make his presentation at this historic meeting, I was thinking, how will he begin? Will he talk about America and moments in our history that meant something to him? Will he quote the Bible? Perhaps a poetic reference that captures his sentiments and the depth of this occasion. Instead, he leaned forward on his arms onto the table and said, I won the popular vote. Having been in this meeting many more times than my colleagues who were there, I know the protocol. They didn't, so I decided to break in and say, that isn't true, Mr. President. That isn't true. You did not win the popular vote. Now, this is the first sentence that he says as the President of the United States to the first branch of government. And, I did because there were illegals in line, all that kind of stuff. Well, it's in the book. But I said, look, I just say this because if we're going to work together, we have to stipulate to fact. And if we're going to work on infrastructure, which I believe is one of your priorities, we have to know what we're to agree on, what the ground rules and the ground numbers are. He says, infrastructure, I'll have it right here. He waved something like a hanky or a tissue or a napkin or something and said, here, I have it right here. $1 trillion, we can pass it right away. Right, Mitch? And Mitch says, not unless it's paid for, Mr. President. That was the end of that. We didn't get the infrastructure until Joe Biden and the bipartisan infrastructure bill in his term in office. But the obsession with saying that he won the popular vote, which he did not, size of crowd, this is so irrelevant. It's unimportant. What we want to do is, for the people, work together to meet their kitchen table needs, not his fantasies as he leans on the table in the White House.
It's an amazing anecdote. And it also, while I think it's not surprising to people that Trump has a sort of a willful denial of reality, there's also a more sinister aspect of that, right? Saying over and over again, I won the popular vote in 2016, or I won the election in 2020 has serious repercussions. The idea that Democrats stole the election from Donald Trump came to your doorstep. Your husband, Paul Pelosi, was attacked as a result of political violence, someone who was looking for you. There are dangerous aspects to Trump denying reality. And I wonder if you think his grasp on reality is even as tight as it was in 2016, and whether you yourself are not, what is your concern about your own safety and that of your husband, who we send our best wishes to in his recovery?
Thank you so much, Alex, for that. And I will convey that to him. The respect he has for you and your family will mean a lot to him that you said that. Well, here's the thing. what the president, it's a missed opportunity is my point. Here he has assuming this mantle. George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Franklin Roosevelt, John F. Kennedy, the big heroes in our country served in this office. You would think he would say something about America or his spirituality, if there is any, his values, his vision. Instead, he resorted to that. So it's the trivializing of the office that he holds, and again, the fantasy that he lives in, that he has bigger crowds, bigger votes, and all the rest of that. But the danger that he causes with that, because he's the president, and really well-intentioned people trust a president when he speaks. But that president did not understand that a president's words weigh a ton. They weigh a ton, and when they land, they have an impact. And he has a responsibility to do something better instead of making the place a more dangerous place. To the reporters, if you beat up the reporters, he says at a rally, don't worry, I will pay your legal fees.
Yeah.
And then after you mentioned my husband, after that terrible assault on my husband, which of course, imagine what it feels like when the attacker was coming for me, and my husband paid the physical price. We're all paying the traumatic price, especially when he and his family and a governor and this and that of the Republicans made a joke of it. It wasn't funny. In some ways, they are a joke, and because they are not reality, but that ain't funny either.
Yeah.
So again, we have to win this election.
Now, a few days ago, the former speaker talked with the New Yorker's David Remnick about her relationship with President Biden following his exit from the presidential race, something she reportedly played a significant role in.
Do you think your relationship will be there?
I hope so. I pray so. I cry so.
You worry about it?
I lose sleep on it. Yeah.
You think he's angry at you? You think he's angry at you?
I don't know. We haven't had a conversation.
Here's what she told me about her relationship with President Biden as it currently stands. Jen, have you called the president?
Well, I'm no longer the Speaker of the House or the Democratic leader of the House, so my communication with the president is not what it had been before, as when he was president or vice president of the United States. I think his legacy is so consequential for America. In 2 years, when we had the majority, and he obviously still is, but was president then, we passed legislation that addressed the kitchen table needs of the American people in a very substantial way.
I also asked her about the controversy surrounding Donald Trump's running mate, J.D. Vance. There's been a lot of talk, especially on the right, especially from the former president's running mate, J.D. Vance, who said a lot about children and those with children and those without children. And I know throughout the book, you talk very personally about how you are in a career of public service for the children. And children obviously animate a huge part of your life. You have 5 of them. I'm a mom myself. I know what they occupy the most real estate in our hearts and our heads. But I do wonder what you make of, J.D. Vance's suggestion that people with children should have more power in our democracy than those without. What's your reaction to that?
Frankly, it's dumbfounding to think that somebody would say such a thing. What is really even further dumbfounding is that his wife, give her a chance, she's his wife, said he wasn't really criticizing people who didn't have children, who couldn't have children. He was criticizing people for not trying to have children. What is he talking about here? And that people with children should have more rights? What are we talking about here? We're talking about the United States of America. We're talking about one person, one vote. And I kind of resent him talking about the Democratic leadership's been all about childless women with cats. And I have 5 children in 6 years and 7 days. So I don't even know what he's talking about. And I was the top Democratic woman. Now that's going to change. We're going to have Kamala Harris, and it's going to be a wonderful thing.
My thanks and best wishes for brisk book sales to Speaker Emerita Nancy Pelosi, author of The Art of Power: My Story as America's First Woman Speaker of the House.